Hey, JK here. I want to thank you for sharing part of your day with me. For day 28, we're heading up to Canada to talk about the Toronto Blue Jays, who are third in the AL East with a record of 89 and 73 with a positive 75 run differential. Now, there were 6 different guys who led at least one category, so let's go ahead and get to them. Mr. George Springer led the team in at-bats and runs. Bo Bichette led the team in hits, total bases, batting average, slugging, and on-base plus slugging. Matt Chapman led the team in doubles and strikeouts, no surprise there. Kevin Kiermaier led the team in triples, so that's pretty cool. Mr. Vlad Guerrero led the team in home runs, RBIs, walks, and on-base percentage, while Whit Merrifield led the team in stolen bases. The old man can still move. Now, even though I read some big names leading categories, across the board, production fell for a lot of those guys. Bichette, Vlad, Springer, Varsho, Matt Chapman, surprise for those last two. Man, they can't hit the broads out of the barn. But the point being, the home runs were down, the walks were down, strikeouts were up, stolen bases were down, except for George Springer. He added 6 more to his total. But the hits overall were down. Bichette led the team in hits, but fell short of what he had in 2022. It's frustrating as a Blue Jays fan, I'm sure, to see such a potent lineup essentially just not perform. It's great for a Yankees guy because you're not performing up to level. That means the Yankees have a chance. But in any case, some of these guys are now on my fantasy team, and so I'm hoping they do well. But point being, I see these guys bouncing back, and I see it being in a big way. In fact, these 89 wins were the lowest the team has had since 2019. No one counts 2020. But in any case, I definitely see this team fighting for at least a wild card, and who knows, maybe even the entire division because of how down some other teams are, whether with injuries or just because we don't do well when we're in pressure situations. But again, I see these guys bouncing back. Again, you can only hold some of these guys' bats down for so long. As much as I hate the Astros, Springer always came up big for them. Vlad, his dad, always came through in clutch situations. Vladdy Daddy is going to be back in a big way. I foresee 30, 35 home runs, 280 batting average. Let's see, Bo Bichette, he'll probably get 15 stolen bases from like the 8 he had this past year, which was down almost 10 from what he had in 2022. I see some of these other guys like Varsho having a better season. I mean, he was batting 222. He came over from Arizona. Talk about him in a second. Batting like 230, 240. Definitely going to need to see more from him. Thankfully, Matt Chapman's gone, because he was just a void at third base after the best third baseman in all of baseball, Mr. Josh Donaldson, left. I know he's my favorite player. Don't at me. I'm just trying to talk him up. Now we're going to talk about some of the new guys that Toronto employed in their lineup. From division rival Tampa Bay, Kevin Kiermaier came over and swiped 14 bags while adding 25% of his hits as doubles. Next guy, rookie second baseman Davis Schneider, came up from their farm system and started off hot. Cooled down to a 276 average, had a 1,000 plus on-base plus slugging percentage, and had more walks, 21, than RBIs at 20. Finally, Brandon Belt had 19 home runs, and of those 19 home runs taken away from his total hits, a third of his remaining hits counted as doubles. So these guys were getting on base, they were getting around the bases, and they were producing both runs and RBIs. Next 2 guys we're going to talk about are all catchers, or were catchers at one point in time. Dalton Varsho came over in a trade with Arizona this past year, and the trade was for Lourdes Gurriel. The team probably wants Lourdes Gurriel back. It's a loaded catcher room anyway, so I don't know why they brought Varsho over, because his main shtick was being a catcher who could steal bases. If he's not a catcher anymore, he's just a very subpar outfielder batting 220 who has 135 strikeouts to his name this past year and 155 hits. That's not great. Getting some home runs, but his average is so low, his slugging is so low, so his on-base plus slugging looks terrible. I don't know if this was the guy that Toronto really thought they were going to get, but he's not doing what he needs to do. However, now with Danny Jansen going down, that crowded catcher room just got smaller. Alejandro Kirk will be the main guy, but Varsho could step in. He could have been asked to step in and be a catcher to relieve Alejandro at some point in time. Speaking of him, Kirk and Danny Jansen did supply a duo that did decently in 2022, but definitely fell down a peg or two in 2023. With Jansen being out, there's no saying what's going to happen with Kirk. He went from batting 285 in 2022 to like 240, 250 in 2023. All counting stats were down, percentages were down. Same with Danny Jensen. And his batting average went down to like 220, 225, something like that. So really not good. With him coming back with a wrist injury, that could make his swing even harder to get back. So it's really going to depend on if Varsho wants to play. He's going to have to either improve his hitting or maybe step back behind the plate, because with some of the new additions, there might not be room in that outfield or maybe behind the plate for Varsho. And you can definitely tell the Blue Jays might be regretting this trade they made to send Gurriel out. And now we transition from catcher to pitcher, as you want that to be a seamless transition as the ball is coming to the catcher's glove and they're going to frame it, hopefully having called the right pitch for the batter in the situation. Now, the pitchers for Toronto are pretty great. Compared to the division they're in, they have done so much better than I think anyone really could have imagined, especially with some of them being a little older, coming from other teams, having a little more wear and tear on them. However, let's go ahead and get to the leaders. Chris Bassitt led many of the stats except strikeouts and ERA, which went to Kevin Gausman. The holds went to Erik Swanson, and the saves went to Jordan Romano. Unfortunately, both of those guys, Swanson and Romano, could be down for a period of time, so we're going to talk about how taxed and how important the bullpen will be coming up in just a second. However, before we talk about the bullpen, we need to talk about how important the top three, really top four pitchers are for the Blue Jays, or for their top pitchers, had at least 167 innings pitched. Three of those guys had at least 185 innings pitched. Of those three, Bassitt, Jose Berrios, and Kevin Gausman accounted for 96 starts, 56 quality starts, 39 wins, and 617 strikeouts. That's a pretty great trio. Yusei Kikuchi added another 11 wins and 181 strikeouts. These top four pitchers for the Blue Jays are some of the most important, especially in the AL East, where you have potent lineups, where you have these guys who are just crushing the ball. Everyone's got good bats. However, not everyone has good pitchers. The Blue Jays are going to have to rely on their pitchers a lot this season, especially early on, because the bullpen is missing two big arms. Those two big arms include Jordan Romano, the main closer, and Erik Swanson, the main holds guy. But there are a few issues with the starting rotation as well. Kevin Gausman is nursing a little bit of an injury himself. He may very well be on the injured list to start the season, and that is going to push some of the other guys even more into the mix. Hopefully they don't have to go to Alek Manoah unless, they're playing the Yankees, and I hope they throw him in and keep him in forever and ever, because he's not good. One guy they could count on in Gausman's absence is Bowden Francis. He appeared in 20 games in relief last year, had a 1.7 ERA and an 8.3 WHIP. That's pretty good. He also pitched 36 innings and had 39 strikeouts. Therefore, he's got some good arms. In spring training, he had 3 starts, 14 innings pitched, did allow 11 hits, 3 earned runs, and struck out 12 with a 1.93 ERA and a .93 WHIP. He will likely be one of the back-end starters in that rotation and could potentially move up to a third starter if Gausman is out. I'm looking forward to seeing what this rookie can do, as, again, only 20 appearances under his belt. This is going to be an opportunity for him to really show that he has what it takes to be a major league starting pitcher. As we mentioned, there is one arm down in the rotation. There are 2 big arms down in the bullpen. However, I do still feel good about it because there are guys who can contribute big time. Last year, Tim Meza had 22 holds and a 1.5 WHIP, while Yimi Garcia struck out 79 in 66 innings and added 19 holds, while Mr. Trevor Richards had 105 strikeouts in 72 innings and 11 holds. This is still a pretty solid bullpen if they are not taxed too much upon the return of Swanson and Romano, along with Gausman. Again, this rotation transitioning to the bullpen, one of the best. Even though they did lose a few arms, both in the rotation and in the bullpen, still feel good about it. But they did add some big names, some big bats, one main one, because that is just exactly what they need. More bats in an already potent lineup. Of course, that one person is Justin Turner. He is eligible for first, second, and third. However, he is likely going to be playing DH. Another big bat they added was Daniel Vogelbach. Big boy, carries a big bat, can have big hits. Probably going to be first baseman at some point in time, especially when Mr. Vladdy needs a break. But also could be the DH on days that Turner needs a break. Someone else they brought in is not going to look as good in the gray and blue as he did in the white and red. Joey Votto, Cincinnati favorite, son, however, natural Canadian. Didn't mean to rhyme that, but it just happened to work out with what I was saying. He is going to be on a minor league contract, will likely be up at some point in time. It's going to be weird seeing him in blue and not red, but it is what it is. Also, shortstop, second baseman, catcher at one point in time. Could be asked to be a catcher in this situation too. Also, outfielder Isaiah Kiner Falefa. Falafel. That guy. Isaiah Kiner Falefa. That is his name. He played for the Yankees. Hard to pronounce his name at different points in time, especially when you're trying to say it fast. Now let's get to some of the guys that they lost. Hyunjin Ryu, one of my favorite names to say. He was huge for me in fantasy baseball a few years back. Has agreed to an 8-year deal with KBO, so he's probably not going to pitch in the MLB again. Matt Chapman, that's not a loss. Whit Merrifield, that's a loss. Jordan Hicks, that could be a loss, especially in this rotation that is going to rely on the bullpen, and the bullpen that's probably going to be overworked earlier in the season. And finally, Santiago Espinal. He's been with the team 4 years, had infield and outfield eligibility, was going to be looked upon to take some spots and really emerge as a starter in that offensive unit, but didn't end up working out. He is now in Herter-friendly park for the Reds, Great American Ballpark. Overall, I feel really good about this team. I think they're going to bounce back big time. I think the players that we talked about being in dips, Springer, Bichette, Vlad, Turner had a great year with the Red Sox. He's going to be a great addition for them and help and allow those others to bounce back without so much pressure on them. I think some of the arms in that rotation are going to be phenomenal again. Hopefully not overworked too much earlier in the season so that they are still fresh or at least ready to go ripping and raring, to go excited to make the playoffs, because again, I do feel like they're going to make the playoffs. I feel like they're going to compete for the division crown, and I feel like it's probably going to be with the Baltimore Orioles, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit. Not tonight, here in a few nights. But point being, I think those two are going to be the best two teams in the AL East. We're going to get back to the states and talk about the Tampa Bay Devil Rays tomorrow, as we have 2 days left in 30 teams or 30 days. I'm excited to finish this series up and get to fantasy baseball, get to the real thing. Now I'm just sitting, I've been looking at these same stats that we've had the past 2 games for these past few days, and I'm not winning. And I don't like it. But in any case, we're going to be getting back to this tomorrow night, and I'm looking forward to talking to you all. And I'm looking forward to you giving me some more feedback and hopefully hearing about your fantasy team and how about your fantasy drafts. This is J Cake, and I want to thank you for sharing part of your day with me.